Welcome to another episode of the Bandage Podcast, a weekly wrap-up of the most trending healthcare news. Each week, we'll discuss the latest in healthcare, health IT, and compliance.
In this week's episode, we discuss a new national data privacy proposal to help HIPAA, universities, psychiatrists working with jails to improve mental health, and new bee-protecting vaccines. Let's wrap things up. This is episode 155 for the week of October 3rd. I'm Matt Moneypenny.
And I'm Albert Battistelli.
Before we get started, our diagnosis code of the week is W51.XXXA, accidental striking against or bumped into another person. Sequela. That's why the word excuse me exists, or the phrase, rather. Thank
or
you
if you're in
much.
the Midwest,
sorry.
Sorry about that.
Sorry. Beep.
Scooch by you here.
Let me just get right past you there. Good for them.
Yeah.
Well,
Accidental striking against or bumped into. What a terrible diagnosis. Oh, you were bumped.
Ooh.
Ugh.
You got an injury because someone bumped into you. Couldn't imagine. Do football
Right.
players get this?
Yeah, maybe. I
Or
feel
is
like
there
there's a
something for
specific one for
tackled
like
against?
athletic. Like
Athletic bumping into.
right.
Right.
Sequela.
That's the difference. Sequela, right. Anyways, first up, we got strengthening HIPAA with more legislation. Healthcare stakeholders believe there is a need for better privacy protection for health data that falls outside of HIPAA's jurisdiction. If it passes Congress, the American Data Privacy and Protection Act, or ADPA, may narrow some existing gaps in healthcare privacy. The ADPA moved forward down the pipeline in July and was lauded as a, quote, major step forward for national data privacy protections. The ADPA could give the HHS, or the Health and Human Services Organization, a much-needed boost as it gives the Federal Trade Commission, or FTC, more resources and more overt and obvious authority to regulate in certain spaces where the FDA has struggled.
Well, hey,
there was a lot said in this description, and there's a lot, in this story, but really, I don't necessarily know what ADPA does. I got to be honest.
right.
I think
Apparently,
it's
just going to expand HIPAA a little bit.
I guess.
It narrows gaps. Come on, it says it right here.
It narrows gaps. It's a lot of political words used. Narrows
That's
gaps. Let me be clear. It narrows gaps.
Right.
Thank you. Vote for me. Appreciate it. That's cool. I think, this probably stems from COVID, because when COVID was going around, HIPAA kind of went by the wayside, and it probably said, oh, snap, there's some gaps associated with HIPAA that we've never filled. So
right. It looks like it gives the Federal Trade Commission some more authority, so that would be good.
That's
so
good.
They can regulate places where the FDA has struggled. I'm literally just quoting the article we read, but interesting.
Yeah, I think overall this is cool. I think it's worth keeping up on, and I think any effort towards protected health information is a good step forward.
Yeah, it's a changing world out there. You got to be on your feet.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be nimble. You got to be able to react to these things, which is why it takes years to get something through Congress.
Exactly.
All right. Next up, improving mental health in Texas jails. University of Texas psychiatrists are working with local counties to improve mental health services in jails and decrease the incarceration of people with mental health issues. Last May, the Travis County Forensic Mental Health Project brought together community members to create recommendations to reform local criminal justice systems. About 40% of the people held in the county jail struggle with mental health, many of whom would benefit from outside treatment as opposed to jail. The group has not finalized its recommendations, but they will likely include increasing efficiency for mental health evaluations, as well as increasing housing options for people who need treatment. The committee's recommendations should be released within the next 2 months. That's interesting.
Hey, mental health in jails. Dun, 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 dun.
Right.
I wonder if the jails are starting to realize that a lot of reason other than poverty that criminals, people become criminals, it also has to do with mental health.
Absolutely.
Especially with addictions too. Hello, it makes sense.
Hello, they go hand in hand.
Hello, addiction leads to drug use, which is illegal, which leads to incarcerations, which leads to depression, which leads to bad.
Right. Which drug use also affects brain chemistry and can lead to
Likewise.
mental health. Yeah.
Exactly. Wow.
Not to mention incarceration also can like affect your brain chemistry because you're like
hmm
locked away from society and you start to, I don't know.
You can only make so many license plates a day. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yes. So
Next
this is
up,
good.
oh,
Sorry. I just think
but
that's a good thing. I'm excited for it.
just kidding. Next up, newbie be buzzing on the block. Whoa. Dallin Animal Health Incorporated, a biotech company pioneering insect health and immunology, today announced the close of a $3.55 million seed financing round. The company will use the new funding to bring to market the world's first insect vaccine for honeybees for vaccination against American foul brood, the most devastating bacterial disease threatening bee colonies worldwide. As pollinators, honeybees support the successful growth and reproduction of plants, which then go on to serve as food and shelter for everything under the sun. Honeybees alone are responsible for pollinating 80% of all flowering plants in the United States. They're so vital that the worldwide crop production could decrease by 90% without them. The vaccine is suitable for use in organic agriculture. The platform technology uses a transgenerational immune priming approach where the maternal animal passes the information on the disease to the next generation larvae before they hatch, Albert. The company plans to use this approach to develop vaccines for other honeybee diseases and invertebrates, such as shrimps, mealworms, and insects used in agriculture. This seems like kind of a mad scientist thing.
Yeah, for real.
I think it's cool. I think it's good. But could this be used in a bad way? Imagine if mosquitoes got a hold of this vaccine. Now, I don't think mosquitoes are going to have some sort of vaccine heist and take it.
They
But
might.
if they do, whoa, watch out. Or killer bees. That'd
Right?
be even worse.
It wouldn't be great.
Or murder hornets.
Murder hornets.
That's cool. I think, there's all this stuff about bees lately. So this is a pro bee podcast.
This is a pro bee. Why can't I talk? This is a pro bee podcast. I kept wanting to say like probiotic. Like my brain was like this is a probiotic podcast. It actually will help your digestive
Hey, I like
system.
probiotics.
Me too. This is going to help your gut health.
Yeah,
Listening
gut
to us,
health podcast.
Gut health. Yeah, this will help you.
But also bees. You could say we're the bees' knees.
Oh, people have. You should say that. Absolutely.
We are the bees' knees.
Yes, we are.
Okay. Well, what do we got next?
Breach
I know
Patrol.
what we got next. Our next segment.
BREACH, Breach Patrol. It's a breach! All of the latest cybersecurity breaches.
Welcome to Breach Patrol. We talk about the latest breaches all across the world. Woo! What do we got?
All right. Capital One's Capital Payment. Capital One was breached in 2019, affecting about 98 million customers. The attack exposed personal information such as names, phone numbers, email addresses, and self-reported income. In addition, the hacker made off with about 120,000 social security numbers and 80,000 linked bank account numbers. Dang. After Capital One announced the data breach, affected customers filed several lawsuits against the bank. The company has agreed to a settlement with the plaintiffs. The settlement is around $190 million, which Capital One will pay into a settlement fund. The fund will cover various things, such as cash payments, purchasing identity, defense services for those impacted, and paying for restoration services for all settlement class action members.
Yeah, so I couldn't imagine being on an IT team or a cybersecurity team for a bank or a big credit company.
Right.
And they probably try to get attacked like every quarter second.
Right.
Or more. Or less, I guess, is the word. But not good. 80,000. This just comes after we started talking about Key Bank.
Right.
But yikes. 120,000 social security numbers as well. And I mean, that's always bad, but then on top of that, you throw in the bank account information.
Yeah.
And that's like you use a social security, bad actors use social security numbers to get, credit, right? And sign up for all sorts of things and do bad things with it. But if they have the social security number and the linked bank account, then it makes it even easier for them. So hopefully if you are affected, you're taking the right steps and precautions. Next up, Humana taking the humane route with its disclosure. Humana disclosed last week that there was a third-party breach to the Maine Attorney General's office that impacted 22,767 individuals. The breach originated at Choice Health, which sells Medicare products on Humana's behalf. On May 14th, Choice Health learned that an unauthorized person was offering to make data available that was allegedly taken from a Choice Health database. Further investigation determined that a single Choice Health database was accessible through the internet due to a security misconfiguration caused by a third-party service provider. The hacker accessed the database and obtained certain files on May 7th. They obtained data containing social security numbers, health insurance information, contact information, Medicare beneficiary identification numbers, and more.
Dang.
I didn't know that the Maine Attorney General had this much information.
Right?
I mean, I guess Medicare information makes sense because, just in case fraud happens, they need to know that stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know about health insurance information, which I guess maybe the article could have written health insurance information as just an add-on to the Medicare information because that is the same thing, right? But yeah, that's not good. Choice Health learned that the unauthorized person. So that's where it comes into play, Albert. I just answered my own question.
You just did.
Wow. So there
That's
was
all
a
you gotta
breach
do
to
is
the
just-
Maine Attorney General's office, and then Choice Health had a database that was investigated. So, wow.
Yep.
Interesting. What are you going to do? And Humana is a health insurance company. So that's the other health insurance information. Okay. It all makes sense now. The way that this story was written was hard to dilute through. And a lot of times I just read what's written, but it all makes sense now.
Yep. Way to go. Way to go, team. All right. Last up, Samsung sued over two 2022 breaches. Two Samsung users have filed a class action lawsuit against the company over the two data breaches in 2022. The 43-page complaint claims that Samsung unnecessarily collected user data and then stored and sold it without proper security protections, which led to two back-to-back data breaches. The lawsuit claims that Samsung intentionally disabled specific functions and features of its electronics products, including TVs and printers, and required users to submit personally identifiable information, such as home addresses and dates of birth. The two Samsung users are demanding that the company notifies all the impacted customers, improves its security practices, and provides victims with financial compensation.
This is an interesting one because it's a class action lawsuit, which we've talked about multiple times, but it also has to do with smart products.
Yep.
Because it's talking about features and functions within electronic products, such as TVs and printers.
Right, that wouldn't work anymore unless they entered in their information, personal information.
Overall, Internet of Things is what this is called, and it's I think it's a cool thing. It's a nice technological boost. Yeah, it's helpful. Overall, I like it. I mean, it makes my life easier as a consumer, so why not? But at the same time, it also opens up some risk that you don't necessarily want, Albert.
Yeah, for real.
So,
I mean, at this point, though, so many things are a risk. Anytime you put a password in, it's a risk. Anytime you create a new user on any website, you're kind of taking a little bit of a risk because you don't know if that company's taking the proper security precautions. You hope that they are, but every day we read on this podcast more that aren't. So
exactly.
We live in a risk society.
High risk, high reward, you could say. And that's it for this week's wrap-up of your weekly healthcare news. I'm Matt Moneypenny.
I'm Albert Battistelli.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Bandage Podcast produced by eTactics.